time to talk about luxury cruising. From sweet so sweet to ships elite. Come explore the world in style with me on Luxury Cruising, the podcast.
Welcome back to Luxury Cruising. I'm your host, Krystal Sodaitis, and I am really excited because this is our first YouTube Live. And if it's live and people are here, welcome. Please hit that subscribe not only to me, but to my guest, Explore with Bradley. He is here once again to talk about his most recent cruise on Azamara Quest. Super excited, experienced cruiser, but I don't want to say too much. As always, Bradley, I will take it to you to tell the audience anything you want them to know about you.
Absolutely. Well, if it isn't obvious by now, my name is Bradley, and simple answer is I am obsessed with anything and everything to do with cruising, whether that's on a 2 or 3 night cruise or a very long cruise. Anything to do with cruising is what I love, and that's on and off the ship and the whole aspect around it and how it brings everybody together and creating everlasting memories. So yeah, something I very much enjoy.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us, what made you decide to go on Azamara Quest, this particular ship, this sailing, whichever it is?
Well, there's quite a few different reasons, to be honest. Number one was a present from me and my sister for my mum and dad. See, my dad has different presents because he doesn't like going on too many holidays. He likes to jump on the ship in Southampton. He doesn't like to fly that much. So we do different holidays, but this one was primarily for that reason. However, we love smaller ships. Smaller ships are our thing. It was something that my mum did with my gran many, many years ago. They went on Azamara for the first time and absolutely loved it. So because my nan's no longer here, it was something I wanted to try and recreate, if that makes sense, which we've done on many cruises before, and I know many people have themselves. Not that you can recreate the memories, but you can make new ones about memories that you've once had. So yeah, it was a sentimental reason, but it was also for me as well, because you know what I'm like. I like to try many different lines, and Azamara is certainly in the luxury small cruising category. So yeah, that was primarily it. However, there was also a fantastic, intensive and immersive itinerary around France and all the French peninsula down there. It was just incredible. So yes, it wasn't just 1, 2, 3 or 4 reasons. There was many. Not that I need many reasons to go on a cruise, but yeah, it was quite a lot for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have noticed, because I've had one other guest on the podcast that did Azamara around Ireland. And it seems like that is a specialty of Azamara, to do some really intensive, port-intensive itineraries that are focused on a particular country, a particular region. Do you find that as well?
Oh, it's 100%. I didn't realize how much until I got on board. Now, I know people are probably thinking, well, you knew the itinerary. Yes, I did, but I didn't know the ins and outs. By that, I meant when we docked, for example, we didn't just dock at the cruise port. We were so far into the cities and the ports themselves, even by tender. What I mean is we went into places that I'd never been. There was one called Port Vondre, which I could have said wrong, or Port Vondre, whichever way you want to say it. Short tender ride, but it was a port that none of these bigger cruise ships can get in. And there are many different ports in, like Nice, for example, where we had an overnight. It was Villefranche or whatever it was, in one of them little ports where you literally step off the ship and you're there. You're in the middle of the town. Now, how many cruises have you been on, have seen online that people actually, they got to take a bus or they got to take a transfer, they got to do this. Yes, you are there, but you also see as well, don't you, many itineraries that will go, for example, you're docking in, I'll make it up, London, but you're actually docking in Southampton. There's a bigger sort of aspect to it. But with Azamara, it was so immersive, and the experiences that you get is what they bring on board, but not just a port intensive, because this was the first cruise that I've ever been on where I had 7 days of ports, no sea days. So that says it all. It was a port intensive itinerary in which, if it was something that you really wanted, as in you wanted to get off all the time, it was exceptional. But because you were in port as well longer, you didn't have to get off early in the morning. If you were tired from the night before, you could simply take a rest, have a nice leisurely breakfast up an open deck, and then go off and come back off later at night. It was fantastic. Many different aspects to it, but you're right. They really do intensify the itinerary for that Pacific region. Ours was Spain and France, primarily France. But yeah, like the British Isles cruises, they do some fantastic ports. It's excellent.
Awesome. And so before we get to the ship in general, because you just mentioned the immersiveness, let's jump to the sort of entertainment and the onboard activities. What did they bring on board that may have contributed to that immersive experience?
Absolutely. Well, when we were in Marseille, this is the famous white night. So every cruise has a white night or a white night party, whichever way you want to call it. Ours was in Marseille, so they were bringing on French artists and French guests. But we had spectacular weather up on deck. So we had lots of French artists for different things, like burlesque type dancing. That sort of, it was superb. They all did their own different acts, individuals, groups, out on open deck. And, the white night was superb. And I thought that entertainment was excellent, great. But it then continued into the evening, into the acts in the sort of little lounge. So what I mean by that is they brought local acts, but it was like, I call it diversity acts, but it's like, when you have so many different acts, like one was doing football skills. It was so random, yet it was like, right, okay. Then there was like contemporary dancing, then there was street dancing. Then there was like, I forgot the exact word of it, but the ones that can do all the funny shapes, and then bend their bodies and all that sort of thing. There were so many, it was like a variety show. That's what I was trying to look for, a variety show of so many different acts, but these were all from that region, from Marseille or in and around. Many people have an actual show, like a West End show that they brought on from somewhere. We had a show with local French artists, burlesque type dancing. And then in the evening, there was a variety show of all different acts from that region, from skills and sets that we didn't even think that we'd even see on a cruise ship, let alone on land. When they say it was weird and wonderful, it
Yeah.
was, because you didn't expect any of it. And it was just fun to watch. It's the first time we've come out of the show was going, well, I didn't expect that. Still enjoyed, but it was strange, but really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. And like the football skills or soccer, like we say in the US, it's not something that you would expect. And you're like, huh? But some of those people are really talented. And it does put on like a fun show. It just reminds me of when we were on Star of the Seas during the ice skating show. They brought on, well, you know how there are skateboarders that do like tricks?
Tricks, yeah.
Except
Yeah.
instead of skateboarders, they were ice skaters that were like on these ramps and doing these flips and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, well, I wasn't expecting that, but that was amazing.
Absolutely. When you are sort of natured or nurtured into the fact, when you go on a cruise, you know what sort of entertainment to expect. And because I'd heard so much about the entertainment, the immersive entertainment from the post that you stay in, I knew what I was going to expect, and I knew it was going to be local, but I had no idea it was something like that. There was one lady who's doing hula hoop skills. That's something I did as a child. I never thought I'd be seen on a luxury cruise ship with entertainment, but it was fantastic because they were lit up in LED, hula hoops and all this sort of thing. So you could see everybody was like, wow, because we knew a lot of people who had been on the previous longer cruises, who had been in, I'll make it up, Dubrovnik or Croatia, who had like, very operatic performances or lots of shows. So a lot of people are listening to here and they might see it later on. Will probably think, well, we didn't have that. But that's the best thing about Azamara. It's never the same. It might be similar, but every cruise and every itinerary, they try and get different arts and acts from where they're from. And that's why it's so different. So it's never quite repetitive. So which is what we liked, which is what I like to see.
I love that. And we talked before we went live is that it's a relatively small line. There's only 3 ships. People may know that at one point it was owned by Royal Caribbean International and it was released from them. So Royal Caribbean used to own 4 lines, Azamara, Royal, Celebrity, and Silver Sea. And now they don't totally own Silver Sea, but it's sort of like some sort of arrangement. And they almost like switched it. It was almost around the same time that they released Azamara and sort of brought partially under the umbrella of Silver Sea. So it's been interesting to watch it sort of develop into it's really its own brand. And it's almost as if instead of doing a royal or celebrity itinerary, but ultra luxury, it really has carved out its own niche in this way. So it's been just fun to watch from like a
Absolutely.
cruise geek kind of person.
100%. And what I liked about it was, I was saying to my mum earlier, because we've got our part 2 of our review coming out, it is in its own niche market because it was very boutique. I call it a boutique line because it was luxury yet relaxed. It had a lot of relaxed vibe. There was no formalities, nothing like that. But it's in that category, but it seems to be a category of its own under the luxury umbrella, but it's the small kid on the block, if that makes sense. And they're doing their
Yep.
own thing. As we said, I can't remember all of them, but it's Quest, Journey, Onward. I think there's one was either 3 or 4. But remember now, that might be 3 or 4 ships, but they're still only, 600-700 passengers or less. They're very small ships. So even if you combine the 4 of them, or however many ships there are, that's still one Royal Caribbean vessel. You could put
Yep.
all them ships into one. So yeah, good for them, I say. That's what I like. I like the
Yeah.
little guy. So,
Yeah. And in that same, like sort of on that same topic, what I also really, that I learned about them is they don't do the back and forth. It's not like 7 days Eastern Med, 7 days Western Med, 7 days Eastern Med. Maybe they don't completely circumnavigate the globe, but their itineraries are always evolving and changing, which means a lot of people stay on board for really extended periods of
yes,
time.
yes, 100%. And as we touched upon earlier, we were probably the rare or the minority of people that were only on for a week. There were people 14, 21, 28, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 nights. And this was genuine. We were talking to people and overhearing people because we like earwigging as if anything, where you listen to, and only about cruises and itineraries and all that sort of thing. And we said that some people would say, we've been on for 32 nights. We joined in Fort Lauderdale. They did the transatlantic or whatever. They joined. And it was like, wow, a lot of Americans and Australians and everybody from North America, they don't want to come to Europe for a week. And I completely understand because it's so far that they would specifically pick Azamara because it is that relaxed feel. But not just that, it's such immersive itinerary, as we've already touched on, and they don't repeat. They might stay in the same region for X amount of time, but there's so many different ports. Like if you compare their itineraries from a major line, Princess or MSC or Royal Caribbean, they're too big to get into these ports. When you compare it, on a week's cruise on a large ship, you get 3 or 4 ports. But look at me, on a week's cruise, I had 7.
Yeah.
And that's regular for Azamara. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It was something where each week, should we say, or each day even, is different. And they might do, up once and then come back, but they flip it. So they'll do, some of the ports the same, but they might get there later. They might get there earlier and then they leave late. So it's all forever changing. It really was a sight to be seen because it's to hear everybody say the same things, that it was the itineraries that brought them back and how close they got in. And from a personal point of view, not a lot of people think about this until it happens to you, but that's amazing for people with limited mobility because they can simply get off the ship and on to, the port side and off they go. Of course, I'm not saying that for everyone, but in my mind, especially thinking back to with my grandmother and with other people, I thought, this is excellent because a lot of people are put off by cruising or getting off a cruise ship because they think, I have to get on this bus. Is it adapted for me? Can I get there? So I hope people listen to this and really think, Azamara really do benefit from something like that. It really is amazing.
Yeah, that's so good to know. So take us on to the ship. What did you think of the ship, the decor, the room?
Amazing. As I said, I love smaller ships, and she was an elegant old girl, should we say, who was 25, 30 years old. I don't know the exact age. She was like bringing back the old concept of cruising. In our previous podcast, I've told you about the old ships I used to go on, Oriana, Aurora, who are still bigger than this one. But she had like a grand staircase, but it was tiny, but a grand stair. It had the mahogany, the woods, the luxury carpet, the big armchairs, which I love sitting on, in the Mosaic Cafe by the atrium. I call it an atrium, but by the sort of staircase. Loads of different rooms. What we were really surprised with, nooks and crannies, as we call them down here in Wales, right? Nooks and crannies where so many different little bars and little sitting areas where you could grab a coffee, go past the coffee area and then sit in a little nook over there. And some of the bars that you never really see and you say, oh gosh, there's another bar here, but comfy, no ultra modern, no hard wooden or metal chairs. I know this sounds silly, but things like the buffet. We've talked about this when we get into the luxury market. They set the buffet out, so it's got the knives and forks, the placemats, the salt and peppers, or everything. It was just lovely, and loads of outdoor area. For such a small ship, there was so much outdoor space. No fighting over sun lounges either, which was excellent to see.
Awesome, always.
And yeah, the decor was just old but gold. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this is the exciting thing, which I didn't realize until we were on board. And I've also spoke to people who I met on Explorer who are going on after this, but she's having a refit in October because Azamara are refitting their fleet. They're starting with Quest, spending tens upon tens of millions, adding new suite categories, new ships. So not just now ripping out carpets, they're doing the whole ship. Was she a little tired in places? Yeah, if you really look. Do I think she needed a refit? No. But they're ripping her out from what we were told. You know, they really are replacing most of the stuff, keeping it the same, but updating it. And I was really shocked at that in a good way, because I was like, wow, they really do want to keep these ships. That's what I thought of. Not, oh, they're doing this for a particular reason. No, obviously, they're investing in what they have because they know that they've got the market for it and people love these older ships. So they're just giving them a sprinkle in of fairy dust, should we say. So yeah, that was very good to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I love it. I love it just for a lot of reasons that they're not just scrapping the old ships and trying to build something new when many of us, we love the decor and maybe they'll update the decor, but not completely. I also love those little small quiet places that you just discover and you can just sit there and have,
Yeah,
a tea or a coffee or maybe even a cocktail and just enjoy the ship and watch the people.
absolutely.
It's just so nice. So nice.
It is. Absolutely. And as you said, you use the word discover, and that's what I think resonates with Azamara. You discover new places, not just off the ship, but also on the ship too, and that's what I loved about it.
Yeah. How did you like your room? I saw your video. I was actually just came on it today as I was doing my morning scroll, your room tour. So how did you like it?
So I always say to people, and you know what I'm like, I go through every nitty gritty detail because people mistake cruising as like all cruises are the same and all ships are the same, which is, unless you've done cruising, you know that you can have a completely different experience on many different lines and many different rooms. So Azamara, especially Azamara Quest, and that class of ship, which they're all the same class of ship, she is small. So you're not going to expect the biggest room. We knew this. We did the research. We didn't mind. We knew what we were getting in for. The room was fab. Was it small? Yes, of course it was. Was the bathroom small? Yes. And even I found the bathroom small and I found the shower small. And yes, it has a shower curtain, a dreaded shower curtain that everybody talks about. But we found it great because we weren't in the cabin a lot and we knew what to expect. There was no hidden surprises. I was surprised that there was USB ports and certain upgrades, that the multimedia system was fantastic. One thing that really did surprise us was the balcony. It was much deeper than we thought. And this is one thing that I will say, and I hope Silversea or Krystal and Explorer, well, not so much Explorer because they're new, but their furniture on their balcony was excellent. They had padded seats and furniture, which I've seen on many luxury lines now, where they fall flat on the furniture on the balcony. To some people, that may sound trivial, but to the likes of my mum and me and people that we know were like sitting on our balcony, if you're paying that much money and you're expecting the finer things, simply having a padded lounger or chair where we sit, we eat on our balcony. We love it. So it was little things like that. And again, I know some people have different opinions, which I totally understand. But the room itself, small, yes. Well appointed, absolutely. Anything more that could have been added? No, probably a bit more space. But because we weren't needing it, because we weren't in the room all the time, but did we feel that it was smaller? Yes. But cleanliness, fantastic. Yes, dated in places, but they're updating them. They're not going to rip out the room entirely and put things in. Comfy bed, comfy sofas, nice little mini bar and fridge, water replenished every day, clean, lovely cabins here. What else do you want?
Yeah.
Fantastic. And that was a standard veranda, by the way. That wasn't like there's an extended veranda, which is a bigger balcony or a suite, nothing like that. That was just a nice veranda stateroom, which we very much enjoyed.
Yeah, I agree with you about the balcony furniture. I mean, it's the small things that just sort of take a cruise from nice to great. And
Yes.
it's the really nice padded furniture on the balcony. And then the other thing they had that I noticed that some cruise lines do and don't, and that is they had the little runner on the bed for your luggage. And a lot of people may not think that's anything. And look, that is not unique to luxury cruises. Like Disney does that. Royal does not. I've seen it on Carnival. I've seen it on Disney. I haven't seen it on Royal or on Celebrity. And when I saw it
Wow.
there, I was like, yeah, that's a nice touch. It's those small
Yeah.
things that I think just up level your experience a teeny tiny bit. Cause yeah, like I don't want the road dust on my comforter. Sorry, I really don't.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And on that topic, I am a sticker or I'm a lover for when I was a kid and we get sent the luggage labels, the actual luggage labels you put on. Well, when we arrived, they put on our luggage labels for us. But when we left, they gave us fresh new luggage labels to put on. Some lines now you have to print off and you have to either get sellotape or a sticker or anything you is and use it. But this was, even though you were leaving, it was still something that added a little extra touch. Because when we were kids or when we were younger, you would get sent a booklet with your tickets, your luggage labels, everything, and some still do this, Krystal's one of them. But yeah, it was little things like that, which I think wouldn't matter to new people to cruising or not matter at all to some people. But for those who are nostalgic about cruising and have been on cruising for years, they'll understand exactly what we're talking about. The little touches.
Just clarify, was it the luggage tags for when you put your luggage out for disembarkation, or just a replica, like a memento of your embarkation luggage tags?
What I meant was when you come off on the last night, they print you new tags because you might be in a different port to what you got on. So the port's all different. They cater for that. And it's just a fresh tag with your number on. For example, should have gone into detail. We had a tour because our flight was late, because we were on a tour with them. They put on specific tags knowing that when the luggage got off the ship, the port handlers knew that we were on a tour. So our bags went next to our bus. So I found that really good. All the rest and certain other ones, it was our tour, then there was another tour, but because they had different luggage labels on them and everybody else then had fresh luggage labels, but they knew it was just for people to pick up their bags.
Yeah,
so, it's well organized.
To me, that's a game changer, because the thing I dread the most is the last day, because I've got 2 kids, a husband who's amazing, who does the packing, but he doesn't write out the luggage labels. So it's me on like 8 pieces of luggage writing like our name, our ship day, our embarkation day, blah, blah, the address, the phone. I'm like, this is the worst. If someone could do that for me, it would be
Any
amazing.
people are like, I have my mum to do it. It's fantastic. But yes, little things. And even if you needed new ones, they were always there. Or you simply ask, it was a polite reminder, but in a nice way. And it was not, oh God, I didn't print these off when I was home. Oh God, it's ripped off the case to keep that one on. No, it was none of that. It was just making the little things, even though it was sad leaving, just making it that bit easier.
Oh, I love that. So tell us about the food. How did you like the food?
Really good. So we went on here because we've been lucky now. We've been on Explorer, Krystal, all that sort of thing. We said to my mum, and she was under the same impression, we're not going to go on here comparing to that, because Krystal is ultra luxury. Azamara is fit in the luxury category to a point. I'm not going to say she's ultra luxury for different little reasons. However, she is also ultra luxury in other reasons. I know it sounds quite hypocritical, but I'll explain. For example, the buffet on Explorer, I've told everybody this many times, you can't compare any other buffet on any line to Explorer. Simple. Azamara, she catered for what she had. The few hundred passengers at the back of the ship, a little buffet that walked directly out onto the back of the aft of the ship was there. Was there lots of food? Yes. Was it a nice choice? Yes. Was there a vast choice? No, there wasn't a massive choice. But there was different things every evening. There was the same sort of salads and sides and all that sort of thing. There was a lovely, what I really did like was a nice sandwich making station. They had a sandwich of the day, but if you wanted a particular sandwich, they'd make it. They'd have daily or nightly specials. There was one that they had was a seafood evening, and we've recently got into sushi thanks to Explorer, and certain other things. Oh, fantastic. But much smaller scale. It wasn't the best buffet I've ever seen, but it wasn't the worst by any means, and it was much quieter, very clean. There was a gelato section. So what I was trying to say is, on other lines where you get the buffet and then you get different sections for like ice cream or starters or mains and desserts, this was all at one, but done nicely. Does that make sense? You could get around it within a minute, but they also had in the morning like a waffle station and stuff like that, which was lovely to see. But yeah, very nice, suited us down to the ground because of the port intensive itinerary. That's all we wanted to do some nights was just to grab, a buffet and sit on the back. The specialty dining, we had chef's table, which was really good. We had Prime C and we had Aquilina. My favorite was Aquilina, which was stunning. It's like an Italian with lots of different foods. Prime C like this thing is prime beef, steaks, that sort of thing. Really good. The chef's table, again, really good. However, chef's table, I don't know if you've ever done one, or to those that are listening, should be very exclusive. You're in a room, you're there, normally sharing with others because that's what it is. It's a chef's table. And the chef comes out and explains things all nice and well. The food is exquisite, which it was lovely. However, I noted this and not knowing what they're doing in the refit, but I think it's been brought up to their attention many times. The chef's table for Prime C and Aquilina, so there's two. So they'll have a French, Italian, something else is in the chef's table. They're in the restaurants. So the Aquilina and Prime C, they're in them, but in a section at the end, not cut off, but you can still hear everyone behind you. People are walking past. Not that it was a big thing, but it lost that little sparkle. Does that make sense? That little edge where, for example, Anthology and Explorer, Omi Uma on Krystal, it was like, wow, it was a specified restaurant. Did the chef come out? Yes. Did the waiters come out? Yeah, and they were great. However, the waiters were also serving people behind us and on different tables. If you're paying that sort of money, and again, people might have different experiences to me, but this was a full cruise, and it was a full chef's table, and it was a full restaurant. That's one of the things about Azamara, I will say. Specialty dining isn't included unless you're in an owner's suite or whatever suite it is and above. So if you're suite level above, it comes included. Now, they're very small restaurants, so not a lot of people get their preferred times, and it's quite a battle sometimes to get a time unless you don't book prior. We had the 3, so I pre-purchased for my mum and me specialty restaurants. So we had chef's table, I said Aquilina and Prime C. Were they nice and were they specialty? Yes, they were. Was I blown away by Prime C? Not really. Was I really happy with Aquilina? Yes, and some fantastic dishes. Was the chef's table good and worth the money? I'm going to say I'm glad I did it because we met some fantastic people and some lovely food, but I wouldn't go back to the chef's table.
Yeah.
But in the refit, they are now reconfiguring and having a separate room for the chef's table. Now, that would make the utmost difference. And if we do go back on Azamara, would I do it again then? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So little ones. Oh, I forgot to say one last thing. Main dining room, excellent room service for breakfast. We didn't go for the evening meals because we loved the buffet and the specialty. Room service, exquisite. What a fantastic menu. Brilliant menu. And you might have seen some of my TikToks over there that we're having on the balcony. Superb. Really good. Good quality. Piping hot. Arrived within 10, 15 minutes each time. And the variety of stuff that was on that room service menu, excellent. So that's a big up for Azamara. And they did cookies and milk in the night. Get in. So that's what I love.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I agree with you. Like the chef's table, there are some times when, like on Royal, it'll be just a table sort of elevated in the main dining room. And that just doesn't. Other times, it's like in a separate area of a specialty restaurant.
So
Once
it
you get,
feels exclusive.
yes, once you get into the luxury, ultra luxury, you do feel like it should be almost like a wine cellar experience, right? Like if you've ever
100%.
done at a restaurant where they have like a wine cellar experience where you go and it's your own private room and you really don't know that the rest of the ship exists otherwise. So I agree.
Spot on.
Like having the wait staff also waiting on other tables is not.
Yeah, it was, whether I was just our cruise, but of course, from what I've now heard from other people and from what they do in the refit, to reconfigure something, it must have meant they've had some feedback, in regards to. So I'm glad it's not just me. I'll say it if it's just me anyway. I say it as I find everybody knows that now, but when you're paying for something, especially when on a luxury, ultra luxury line, like I don't believe in going on ultra luxury lines and having to pay extra for things. That's just me. I come from a little area in Wales where we have no ultra luxury restaurants or Michelin star restaurants, anything like that. So I'm not used to it anyway. I know a lot of friends from Britain, especially London, a lot of American friends, Canadian friends, Australian friends, who have no issue whatsoever in paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for this. And good for them. If you think it's worth it, absolutely go for it. But if you're going to pay for it, then you should have that exclusive, elevated ambiance service and, decor and that little area of yours. Again, just me, but I think a lot of people have said the same.
Yeah, totally agree. Because this was on the podcast last week, is until we get to Four Seasons, which I guess is in a class by itself because other than breakfast, food is not included.
I obviously saw yours and I was totally shocked. But you know what it's like then with the algorithm and everything? You watch one, then something else pops up, and then somebody who's actually been there. Because I think it's Captain Kate. Is it Kate?
Yes, Captain Kate is the captain. Yes.
That's it. And I followed her for ages and she's fantastic. But then when I realized how much, because I'm never going to be able to afford to go on Four Seasons. So that's it. But out of the principle of it, now knowing that nearly everything is extra, it doesn't matter if I was a billionaire. I would not do it out of principle. That's just who I am. You know, I'm not paying tens upon tens of thousands of dollars, pounds, euros, and then, let's be honest, spending thousands, if not tens of thousands, once you're on board. But perhaps it's not aimed at this sort of clientele, if that makes sense. Perhaps it's aimed at the people who don't have a price tag.
Right. And to be fair, the person said, you know, she probably spent like $300 to $500 for a 9-day cruise on the food. And breakfast was included and there was all other things. But yeah, I mean, I think it is for people who at that point don't care. I just paid $300,000 for this room, and if I have to pay another $1,000 a day for food, like it's fine.
Absolutely, completely agree. But still, I'm going to watch every review and vlog, and everybody that's listening, if you are going on there, please share it with us because I want to know what it's like because I won't be going on it.
Yes, and if you are listening and you're on it, I'd love to have you on the podcast. As many people on Four Seasons, let's talk about how you feel about it, right? And what you're experiencing. So amazing. Anything else about Azamara that you wanted to cover?
Yes. The crew, staff, crew, you know, everybody calls them different things. Friends, family. Now, I have learned recently doing what we're doing and the way that my channel has picked up certain people. A lot of the crew now are on social media and love watching things like this and the videos because they show them to their family because their family don't get to see them. So they see them on here and you give them shout outs. What I will say, they were very relaxed. They were very professional, yet had that fun and cheeky side to them, which we love. You know, if we could say to them, sit down and have a drink with us, we would, right? However, they knew you by name within a couple of days. They knew what drink you liked, even if you didn't want to drink, you know? Very nice, really liked them. And that goes for everyone, you know, waitering staff, food staff, beverage, housekeeping, reception, management, everything. The captain, I'm gutted to say I've forgotten his name. But wow, the most funniest, most immersive captain where he was walking around the ship. He was on the port side. He was greeting people. He was telling them facts and figures about the ports we were going to. He was telling us how we get in and out. We couldn't stop in Cannes. So we were doing Nice and Cannes on the same day. My mum already knew that we could get off in Nice. We could get an Uber to Monte Carlo and Monaco. And then we could just get on a train to Cannes all within a half hour, which we did. We did Monaco, Monte Carlo, Nice, Cannes all within the same day. Fantastic. But yeah, really friendly and down to earth, no formalities. It's nice to go on and think Mr. Jones, you know, that's lovely and it elevates. I'm very much a first name person once they get to know you. I understand they've got a script they have to follow, but it very much was, you know, we always laugh this and I always tell you, because my mum looks very young and I must obviously look old. They always think, because we're the same names, it's Mr. and Mrs. Diamond Jones. You know, when we got on Azamara, they put the beds together. Always used to it, you know. So we said to our room steward and he laughed and we were like, no, that's my mum. It's a present from mum. And he went, and instantly the face dropped, you know, and it was, oh my, and I was like, no, you're not to know, you know, it says, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Diamond Jones celebrating a birthday and a retirement. You put the two together. You're not going to think a 30-year-old. And, you know, my mum, as you know, looks very young and she's very bubbly.
Beautiful.
And I'm used to it, you know, and so I'm used to, we had a laugh. But then once they knew then, right, I'm Brad or Bradley, they still called you Mr. Jones, but it was Mr. Bradley then. So it just made you laugh, you know. They wanted to call you by your first name, but they didn't. So they just added the Mr. and I loved it. And you could have a laugh with them and you could ask them questions because we like to know a lot. I like to know how the crew were treated. I like to know how they liked it, you know, the company they work for. And a lot of them say how much they love Azamara and they love the smaller ships and they love the guests that come on board because it's a much more relaxed feel. And the clientele that come back and the returning passengers to Azamara is one of the best I've seen. That was meant to be flying through the roof, but yeah, it's really good. So that's one thing I will say. And the ships, the itineraries, just everything about it. The only thing I didn't like to a point was there was quite a lot of upsell. So as soon as you got on board an all-inclusive cruise, you have just the bare minimum of alcohol and spirits that are included and soft drinks and tea and coffee, which is great. Then there was a premium, then an ultimate. I upgraded to the Ultimate because my mum likes champagne, even though she can only have a few glasses before she falls asleep. However, that wasn't on the premium, so it was only something like $8 a day per person. So for me, who's already spent a couple of thousand, it wasn't a lot. You know, it was something like $100 and something or whatever it was for the two of us. So I
Yeah.
didn't mind that because I started drinking it then, because back home having a glass of champagne is 15, 20 pounds, you know, so which is $25, $30, you know, it's just a lot of money. And that's the one thing that I will say, not just about that, the tours, astronomical pricing.
Mm. Yeah.
Astronomical. Now, that's not just Azamara. We know from all the cruises we've done, all the people we speak to, everybody now, unless they're included like certain Silver Sea and region cruises, the price of tours for any cruise line are expensive. But I will say wholeheartedly, and I refer this back to Azamara because I know that a lot of people do it because not all the tours are full. They were drastically expensive. We did one to a region called Châteauneuf-du-Pape, which is a wine region in France, and it cost me £500 that tour, which, you know, was a lot of money. And we wanted to do it because we weren't going to do it again, and we really like wine. I'm not a connoisseur by any means. It was good, but it wasn't £500 worth good, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of the tours, for example, our tour at the end of the cruise was a tour and a transfer to Nice airport. So we thought, great waste of time. We have $300 that we had to use specifically for the tours. The tour was $380, and it was taking us from Nice into the town centre, a walking tour with some food, which was lovely, wasn't the best. But then the bus then from there, half hour to the airport, $380. So I had to
That
pay
sounds
another
like a lot.
$80 on top.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, isn't it? You know, and it wasn't just us that was saying it. Again, other people may not think, and there's different packages you can have, see, because there's different ones where you have show excursion credit included, which is good for some people and it covers the tours they want to do. But I just want to point that out to people. For us, and again, people come from different backgrounds and different places, and there's all difference in, you know, the prices that people can afford. It was very expensive, and I won't be the only one saying that's for sure.
And it sounds like the value may not have been there for those. That it didn't seem super elevated because it was Azamara or a luxury cruise.
I didn't come off saying, oh my God, that was the best £500, so $600 I've ever spent, because it was good, but it wasn't like, wow. You know, I was expecting to come away with souvenirs and like, you know, learned absolutely everything about wine. The tour itself was good. It's the people that we met and were doing the tour, and the food in the winery that we went to and the tours, it was fantastic. But when you add everything up, it was like, really, that's a lot of money. But we paid it and we enjoyed, and it's all about what you believe is value for money. For me, it's not. And do I believe, unless it was a tour that was like, you can only do on the ship, you know, and you're on a bucket list, then do it. But one thing I will say to people, there is a lot of upsell. Internet, for example. One last thing, sorry, this really annoys me, and you know how much I hate the fact of how expensive Wi-Fi is and that it should be included in cruises. The package I had, I forgot what the name of it was, but it was like a package for the drinks and Wi-Fi. It only included one Wi-Fi device. Come on.
No, come on. I mean,
Come on. Unless you're a solo passenger. For me and my mum now, who both work and both have businesses, and my mum has a granddaughter now, and my dad was obviously home, so she needs constant, I don't mean every 5 minutes, but stuff has to be done. People live. I work on ships, as in, you know, I can work remotely. But it's sold as, Wi-Fi included. There was only one device. Of course, there's packages above, but I made a big note to that. And it wasn't a complaint, but it was like, right, there's penny pinching, and then there's that. I expect that on Carnival or something like that, you know, Margaritaville or whatever the lower line cruises are. But that really annoyed me. That really did.
yeah. And I'm surprised it wasn't
Yes,
at a better price, because if you're that close to land most of the time, like if you're docked, you can almost just go off your cell signal. So they
exactly.
should sort of discount it, because to entice people to buy it.
Absolutely. And the thing that really annoyed me was, because it is a luxury brand, or luxury, whichever way you want to look at it, that should be included. Explorer, Krystal, Regal, Silver Sea, that's all included. And remember now, if you didn't have the package I had and you just went in the bare minimum, your Wi-Fi wasn't included. You have to buy it back.
And the truth of the matter is that if you roll it into the price of the cruise, no one's going to blink.
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
added $25 per night to the cruise, and that, and Wi-Fi is included, no one blinks.
But there's things like that where I believe that penny pinching and adding costs and then upselling stuff, you know, it's like, right, come on. You know what it's like? Sometimes you go on a cruise ship and there's sections of, right, there's the premium spirits, there's speciality. It was very much like that. I wasn't in your face all the time, but it was subtle enough for me to know. And I'm going, I just come off Explorer and Krystal. And of course there was some, but there was nothing to this degree. And I don't know if I'd been spoiled, because before it wouldn't have bothered me. But now I'm like, I just paid £5,000, which is $6,500, $7,000, you know, for a week's cruise, without the extras, without the flights, nothing like that. That's a hell of a lot of money, and one device and then upselling. Again, just me. Might not have happened for anybody else, but I always say it as I find. So
Yeah, but these are things people need to know. And I appreciate you coming on and telling us about it. Awesome.
Always.
So what's next? Where are you heading next?
Oh, I don't know if I can cope, but it's Silver Sea next. That's in August. That's a big one for us because it's the first time. Plus, sounds a little stupid, but as a kid, Silver Sea was like, you know, we were on the big ships. It was like, posh, just can't afford them. But now we've gone on these better sort of lines. We've now gone into caviar and certain things like that. Now, Silver Sea are renowned for having caviar, unlimited, whatever you want.
24/7.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So me and Mum have decided that we are going to have it in every single lounge room thing, and we're going to take a photo in everyone just to say that we've done it. So that's a big thing that we're doing, but it's the itinerary, Portofino and all around the Italian sort of Riviera. Oh, so can't wait for that. But we're on one of the smaller ships, not the new one, Whisper, because we wanted it. Number one, it was the price point, because I find Silver Sea expensive. However, recently, a lot of their voyages, a lot of their sailings, they've really reduced, which is why I can get on it. So as well, then going into the Krystal and the Explorer, we're in that ultra luxury bracket now, and I want to tick it off the list because, as I keep telling you, I still can't afford to get on Regent yet. I will, but if I tick Silver Sea off, that means I've just got one more to a point, as in the big ones is Regent. But yeah, very much looking forward to Silver Sea. So that's the next one in August. Then we've got a couple of ones in September. We've got Queen Mary 2 in October in the grills, which we've already talked about, but I haven't done the grills on Queen Mary yet. So I'm ticking this off the list. I've done them in every other Queen, Victoria, Elizabeth, Anne. Haven't done them in Queen Mary. And then back on Queen Anne for a present for my mum again, because we always go away before Christmas, because my nan and her used to go away. Again, in the grills. And I have got something to tell you. I don't think I messaged you. Q and R are doing the 4 Queens celebration. I managed to get on it for May 2028. But I will tell you, because I say how much I spend on cruising, how much I don't believe that certain things are worth. I could have gone on a 2-week ultra luxury cruise for what I've paid for this 6 nights on Queen Elizabeth. It's disgusting, but I wanted to do it, and it's worth it because it's a memory for us. It's sentimental because we used to do it with my nan with the P&O celebrations and back home. So yeah, I had to, as we say, I bit the bullet. And I've done it. So yeah, a lot to look forward to, but 2.5 months now of nothing. So if anything changes, I'll let you know.
Probably when I reached out to you about this, you're like, I'm always excited to try my crazy idea.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'll keep doing it, and we get to talk cruising, so it doesn't matter. Absolutely.
Fun. Yes. And one day we're going to cruise together. Absolutely.
Absolutely. 100%.
You and Mum.
And we can do it live then from the ship. How good would that be?
By the way, for anybody listening who wants to scroll back, that white dress on White Night, stunning. Let her know unless you're listening. Yes. Mum Joan, stunning. Beautiful white dress. And you look great too, by the way. Well, thank you. And for anybody who wants to follow this and drop this into their podcast feed, be on the lookout. This will probably be dropping on Sunday. That's May 31st. And until next time, I wish you all safe and luxurious cruising. Hey, before you go, if you're enjoying this content, I would so appreciate a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you'd like to be on the show, there's a link to a form in the show notes, or you can email me at luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. That's luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. I hope to hear from you soon.